Thanks to all for attending today. It's kicking off the Hacktoberfest 2022 for unSkript. Let's start with a quick introduction of myself. I'm Abhishek. I'm located in USA, Bay Area, doing technology for a really long time. I love to break things. My parents can testify to that. Currently, I'm building out a cool platform called unSkript. You can find me on LinkedIn. So what's CloudOps? Is it just a fancy term for DevOps? Well, the story started with IT ops, really. A long time ago, people used to rack and stack their servers. Operations were mostly manual. Then came DevOps, and DevOps changed things quite a lot. But then with the adoption of CloudOps, what we are really now looking for is to do three things, right? Eliminate downtime. That's the biggest thing that CloudOps is all about. Having no downtime, continuous operations, right? And how are we doing this? We are doing this with cloudification, which is moving all your business processes into the cloud. And this is being actively approached by all sorts of firms today, by hiring people who know cloud, doing all sorts of automation. And then there's mitigation, right? Mitigation is, let's catch these problems proactively rather than panic later when the problems happen. So how does it happen? Obviously, the first goal is to identify problems early. And how do we do that? We have lots of metrics, observability, logging systems in play that we installed today, measuring the observability of our systems. This is a well understood area at this point. At least how to measure the performance of a system is pretty well understood. The second step is where the problems start happening. How do you raise alarms? So we have all this data with us, but how do we convert that data into an alarm, right? We do things like write alarms around thresholds. We apply AI ops, but more and more what we find is that figuring out that something is wrong is kind of an art, really. Alerts come, but they are all so much noisy. It's hard to figure out what alert to service and what alert to just let it go, right? And then there's finally automated remediations, and this is really the wild west, right? Once we figure out something is wrong, how do we find out what to do next? And so today really the state of art is there would be something like a wiki document or a Google document or a troubleshooting guide, and this is where folks kind of codify their tribal knowledge, if I can use the word codify. And then what ends up happening is, whoever is on call, they'll go through this troubleshooting document, they'll run these steps, try to figure out what to do next. And then, it's basically a human in loop, but all manual operation that happens all the time. The promise of cloud has been that everything is built on an API, and therefore it's ready for automation. But is that a reality, right? What are the challenges with cloud automation today? As we adopt cloud, what we find is that the breadth of components that we use has increased exponentially, right? Earlier, we used to have 2 or 3 components, very well understood. We could automate around it. Everyone knew the APIs. Everyone could code around it. But what's now happened is our applications are composed of things, something like 15 to 20 distinct components, right? It could be databases, cloud, Kubernetes, your CI/CD tools, etc., right? So in order to do any automation, now you are required to know something like 15 to 20 different APIs, and that becomes challenge, right? Now, even if you knew all that, writing scripts, as we all know, is quite messy. Scripts change. There's maintenance of scripts is a major problem. Once there are bugs, people leave. It's hard to kind of keep all these things under control, right? And then where are these scripts really coming from? Let's try to answer that question. What most of the time is happening is people go to something like the internet, go to like a stackoverflow.com. From there, you figure out your script that you need or your code snippet. You do Control C, Control V, and that's your script, right? But what about credentials? What about auditability? What about sharing? How do you accomplish all these things? People leave credentials in the code and then they get hacked. Managers are frustrated because there's no auditability. No one knows who ran what script. And if you want to share something with your coworkers, Again, it's a nightmare, right? Because you gave the script, but the credentials are with you. They don't have the right environment to run it, and it just becomes more messy. Finally, even if we have all these things, can I trust the machines to do automated remediation, right? Can I expect that I will write a script and attach it to an alarm, and then it'll run and do everything by itself? It's a very hard journey to undertake. So this is the problem that unSkript has kind of set out to solve. And what we are doing is we are trying to make automation simpler for all of us, right? So few things here. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. What we realized at unSkript is that Jupyter Notebooks is a great way of doing troubleshooting guides or runbooks or automating your CloudOps, right? It's a single place. You can write your notes, you can write code, you can execute code, and you can iterate on it, right? So it's an interactive medium. If you make a mistake, you can write it again. You can add steps to it while you are building your workflow, right? It's modular, built on the concepts of connectors, checks, remediations, and all of these are open source. So you don't have to go to stackoverflow.com. There's one single place where you can find the repository of all these checks and recipes and remediation, and you can start using all of these. These are all built on Python, so there's no magic over here. Standard libraries, standard APIs, all tested. And Jupyter gives us this unique ability to basically have a human in loop kind of a experience, right? So what it allows us to do is run a step, look at the output, and decide what to do next. So with that, let's switch to a demo. Let me show here. So as you know, we have open sourced all of this, and the repository is called Awesome CloudOps. And so over here, what you see is a list of connectors that we have built, right? And under each of these connectors, we have what we call Legos, right? So these Legos are the individual small things that people do. For example, modify S3 properties, create users, delete volumes, etc., right? And so these are really the small scripts that today you copy and paste from something like a Stack Overflow, right? So these are all provided over here. As I said, it's written in Python, very well documented, very well tested. So you can look at all of this. And what we have done is we've packaged all of this into our Docker. And you can run the Docker from, if you follow the instructions over here. And so I've got a version of this running, but it's within my SaaS. And so if you follow the instructions on the hackathon, what it will let you do is to basically load a file called gcp.ipnb, and it will make you reach this place where you have a runbook where you have a GCP handle, right? So what the objective of this demo would be is to start here and to convert it into something of how to author your own right? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to implement the get GCP secrets Lego. So let me show you how to do that, right? So as you see, this is basically our Jupyter runbook interface. You can add nodes, you can add code, you can parameterize it as well. So you can add parameters. So if you add a parameter, if you run this runbook, it'll ask for parameters. And these are really the Legos that I showed you out at our GitHub, right? So this is all Python code. You can modify it and you can configure it, right? So configuration is pretty easy. You create a credential, using the interface, and then you just select it from here, right? So unSkript.com. And so this is the credential, and now you can fill in the inputs and outputs and so on and so forth. So let's get started. We have a handle over here. What we are going to try to do is we are going to add some attributes to this. So we'll add an input to this. We call it project. We don't know. So it's a GCP project name. And so once we do this, as you see over here now, got an input box which says projects, right? So we'll go ahead and modify the GCP handle to actually implement the list secrets part, and I'll do a little bit of stealing over here from the side. And what we're going to do here is say project str list And then finally, one more change over here. And that's it. So now we have made the code. We've started with the get GCP handle, which is basically generic functionality to do anything in GCP. And we've converted it into a Lego, which is supposed to get the secrets from a GCP project, right? So let's try to run this now. I have a 2022 apply run action. Let's fix this. Like so, run it again. Live demos. And so this time it has completed. It has actually returned to me the secret, right? And again, there we go. So this is the itemized list of secrets. Now what we can do is we can save this. So now I can call this one list GCP secrets. And call this list GCP list secrets. List GCP secret. And done. And so at this point, we have basically created a new Lego called GCP secrets. So GCP secrets. And so that's the one that we've just created. We can basically configure it the same way and run, right? So this is how you create new content within the notebooks. And I'll show you how we can do, how we can build out a multi-step workflow using such concepts. So this is a parameterized runbook that I've got ready to go. As you see, it asks for a parameter over here. The default value is also filled up. Click run here. And so here we see the power of Jupyter Notebook. So I've got some notes over here telling me what to do with this particular debugging session. So what it's asking me to do is find out all the CPU, all the instances which are relevant for this problem, plot their CPU utilization, and do some remediation. So let's see how to do that. So as we saw, these are the built-in Legos that we have configured very easily. You know, this is the credential to use. So we are using the dev role credential over here. And these are the parameters. Service is the tag name, keys, the tag value is VPN, and then region, which was coming in from parameters over here, is actually plumbed in here. So I can run this now. And so it returns me a list of all AWS instances which were tagged, with the tag name service value VPN. Now I can run the next step. And the next step is actually quite an eye-opening step because it allows me to plot the CPU utilization of all of these instances based on the Voto API, right? So I've got this CPU utilization graph right now, and I can do things like plot logs as well, do log queries. And then at the end of this, maybe what I want to do really is to restart these instances, right? So what I do is I can execute a search, and this is the search that's happening on all of the Legos which you saw in the repository. And over there, I can now include one more, restart this, restart all instances. So create this, configure it using inst list, and then we know what the region is. And that's it. We are ready to go. Now we run, when we run this, it'll restart all the instances. So this is how you can create automated troubleshooting session. And if you want, you can now save it. Click yes over here. And now when you save it, what will happen is the last time your troubleshooting session was only till here. So till fetching the log, but this time you've actually improved it. And now you've added one more step, which was restarting the AWS instances. So over time, using a human in loop type of a system, what you can do is you can improve your troubleshooting and your incident response. And basically you can go to, a continuous operation, thus code posture. That's all we have. Feel free to scan our QR code here. There's a lot of issues that we have opened, tagged as Hacktoberfest. You can join our Slack group, ask us for support if you need it. And that's all. That's all, folks.